Hello everyone, this is Rachel and welcome back to another nightmare. Tonight, I'm bringing you 3 deeply disturbing true stories about roommates, the people we trust to share our living space with. But what happens when that trust is shattered? When the person sleeping in the room next to yours isn't who you thought they were. These are real accounts from real people who lived through experiences they'll never forget. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin. This story comes from a 24-year-old woman named Sarah, who moved to Seattle in the fall of 2019 for a new job opportunity. Like many young professionals in expensive cities, Sarah couldn't afford to live alone, so she found a roommate through a popular apartment-sharing website. Her name was Monica, a quiet 28-year-old graphic designer who seemed perfect on paper. The apartment was a 2-bedroom unit on the 4th floor of an older building in Capitol Hill. It wasn't luxurious, but it was affordable, and Monica had already been living there for 6 months. During their initial meeting, Monica seemed pleasant enough, reserved but polite. She explained the house rules, showed Sarah around, and within a week, Sarah had moved in. The first month was uneventful. Monica kept to herself, spending most of her time in her room with the door closed. She worked from home, which meant she was almost always there, but Sarah rarely saw her. They'd exchange pleasantries in the kitchen occasionally, but that was it. Sarah actually appreciated the arrangement. She valued her privacy, and Monica seemed to respect that. But then, things started to feel off. It began with small things Sarah couldn't quite put her finger on. She'd come home from work and feel like something in her room had been moved. Nothing major, just slight differences. A book on her nightstand would be facing a different direction. Her closet door would be open when she was certain she'd closed it. Her desk chair would be pushed in when she always left it pulled out. Sarah tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was misremembering. Maybe she was just stressed from her new job. But the feeling persisted and grew stronger. One evening, about 6 weeks after moving in, Sarah came home around 7 p.m. Monica's door was closed, as usual, with a faint glow of light underneath. Sarah went to her room, changed into comfortable clothes, and decided to do some laundry. As she was gathering her clothes, she noticed something strange. Her underwear drawer was disorganized. Sarah was meticulous about her organization. She kept everything folded in a specific way, by color, by type. But now, everything was jumbled together, as if someone had been rifling through it. Her heart started racing. She checked her other drawers. Her sock drawer looked disturbed too. Her t-shirt drawer seemed fine, but the underwear drawer, that was definitely wrong. She stood there, frozen, trying to process what this meant. Had someone broken in? But nothing was missing. The front door had been locked when she arrived. The windows were all secure. That left only one possibility: Monica. Sarah's stomach turned. Why would Monica go through her underwear drawer? She wanted to confront her, but something held her back. What if she was wrong? What if she really was just misremembering how she'd organized things? She decided to wait, to observe, to gather more evidence before saying anything. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at her ceiling, listening to every sound in the apartment. Around 2 a.m., she heard Monica's door open, footsteps in the hallway, the bathroom door closing. Normal enough. But then, the footsteps didn't return to Monica's room. They stopped, right outside Sarah's door. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the thin line of light under her door, watching for shadows. And then she saw it. 2 shadows where feet would be. Someone was standing outside her door, not walking past, just standing there. Seconds felt like hours. Sarah's heart pounded so loudly she was sure Monica could hear it. Finally, after what must have been 2 full minutes, the shadows moved away. Monica's door closed. Sarah didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, Sarah did something she never thought she'd have to do. She ordered a small security camera online, one of those tiny ones designed to look like a phone charger. It arrived 2 days later. When Monica left for a rare outing that afternoon, Sarah set it up on her dresser, angled to capture her entire room, especially the door and her drawers. She felt guilty doing it. It felt invasive, paranoid even, but she needed to know. That night, Sarah went to dinner with friends from work, making sure to mention loudly to Monica that she'd be out until around 10 p.m. She left at 6:30 p.m. The camera was recording. When Sarah returned home at 10:15 p.m., Monica was in her room. Everything seemed normal. Sarah's heart raced as she went to her room, closed the door, and opened the camera app on her phone. She started reviewing the footage, fast-forwarding through the empty room. Then, at 7:43 p.m., her door opened. Sarah's blood ran cold. Monica stepped into the room, looking around carefully, as if checking to make sure she was truly alone. Then, she walked directly to Sarah's dresser. She opened the underwear drawer, and she didn't just look. She picked up items one by one, holding them up, examining them. Some she brought close to her face, some she pressed against her cheek. Sarah felt sick. But it got worse. After going through the underwear drawer for several minutes, Monica moved to the closet. She pulled out several of Sarah's dresses and held them against herself, looking at her reflection in the mirror on the back of Sarah's door. She was trying on Sarah's life, her clothes, her style. Then Monica did something that made Sarah's hands shake as she watched the video. Monica lay down on Sarah's bed. She curled up on her side, hugging Sarah's pillow, and she stayed there for almost 20 minutes, just lying there. At one point, she reached over to Sarah's nightstand and picked up a framed photo of Sarah with her parents. Monica stared at it for a long time before putting it back, not quite in the same position. Finally, Monica got up, carefully arranged everything to look undisturbed, and left the room. She closed the door quietly behind her. The timestamp showed 8:34 p.m. Sarah sat on her bed, trembling, her phone in her hands. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But it was past 10 p.m. and she had work in the morning. She couldn't think clearly. She decided she would look for a new place immediately and move out as soon as possible. But she had to stay calm. She had to pretend everything was normal until she could leave. The next few days were torture. Sarah avoided Monica as much as possible, spending long hours at work and at coffee shops. She started apartment hunting frantically. Every night she checked her camera footage, and every night while Sarah was out, Monica entered her room. Sometimes Monica just stood there looking around. Sometimes she went through drawers. Once, Sarah watched in horror as Monica sat at her desk and read through her journal, the private journal where Sarah wrote her deepest thoughts and feelings. It took Sarah 2 weeks to find a new place. 2 weeks of living with the knowledge that her roommate was obsessed with her, invading her privacy every single day. She didn't tell Monica she was leaving until the very last day. She'd already moved most of her important belongings out gradually. On moving day, Sarah waited until Monica left for a grocery run. Then, she packed up everything else with the help of 2 friends and left. She didn't leave a note. She didn't explain. She just left her keys on the kitchen counter and walked out. But that's not where the story ends. 3 days later, Sarah received a Facebook friend request from an account she didn't recognize. The profile picture was blurry, but when she clicked on it to get a better look, her heart stopped. It was a photo of her, taken in her old bedroom. She was asleep in her bed. She recognized the sheets, the pillow, the angle. Monica had taken photos of her while she slept. Sarah immediately blocked the account and reported it to Facebook. Then she filed a police report. The police did question Monica, but without evidence of an actual crime. Stalking laws are complicated, they said. There wasn't much they could do. They told Sarah to document everything, to get a restraining order if Monica continued to contact her. Monica never contacted her again, but Sarah never felt safe again either. She got cameras for her new apartment. She checks all her locks 3 times before bed. She never sleeps with her door unlocked. And she never, ever got another roommate. Sarah sent me her story because she wants people to know, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And the person sleeping in the room next to yours might be watching you in ways you can't even imagine.
This second story comes from a 22-year-old college student named Marcus, who was attending university in Boston in 2021. Marcus was in his junior year studying computer science, and he'd been assigned a random roommate through the university's housing system. His roommate's name was Eric, a transfer student from somewhere in the Midwest. When Marcus first met Eric, he seemed like a typical college guy, maybe a bit awkward, a little too eager to be friendly, but nothing that raised any red flags. Eric was tall and thin, with dark hair and pale skin. He wore glasses and always dressed in dark clothes, mostly black hoodies and jeans. He told Marcus he was majoring in psychology, which Marcus thought was interesting enough. Their dorm room was small. 2 twin beds on opposite walls, 2 desks, 2 closets. Standard college accommodation. For the first week, everything seemed fine. Eric was quiet, kept to himself mostly, spent a lot of time on his laptop with headphones on. Marcus was busy with classes and his part-time job at the campus library, so he didn't pay much attention to Eric's habits. But then, Marcus started noticing things. It started with Eric's sleep schedule, or rather, his lack of one. Marcus would wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and Eric would be sitting at his desk, staring at his laptop screen in the darkness. The screen's glow would illuminate his face in an eerie blue light. He never seemed to sleep. One night, around 3 a.m., Marcus woke up suddenly. He didn't know why at first, just that sudden jolt of consciousness that tells you something isn't right. He lay there in the darkness, his eyes adjusting to the dim light, and then he realized Eric wasn't at his desk. His bed was empty too. Marcus turned his head slowly and his blood turned to ice. Eric was standing next to Marcus's bed, just standing there, in the darkness, perfectly still, staring down at him. Marcus's heart exploded in his chest. He jerked upright in bed, his voice cracking as he shouted, "Dude, what the hell are you doing?" Eric didn't move for a moment. Then, slowly, he stepped back. His voice came out flat, emotionless. "I was checking if you were breathing. You were very still. I wanted to make sure you were okay." Marcus stared at him, his mind racing. "What? Man, that's really weird. You can't just stand over people while they're sleeping. That's not normal." Eric tilted his head slightly, like he was processing this information. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I'll go back to my side." And just like that, Eric walked back to his bed and lay down. Marcus sat there, shaking, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He didn't sleep for the rest of the night. He just lay there, watching Eric's silhouette in the darkness, making sure he stayed in his own bed. The next morning, Marcus tried to bring it up casually. "Hey, about last night, that was pretty intense, man. Are you doing okay?" Eric looked at him with those blank eyes. "I'm fine. Why do you ask?" "Because you were standing over my bed at 3 a.m., dude. That's not something people do." Eric shrugged. "I already explained. I was concerned about your breathing. I won't do it again." Marcus wanted to push it further, but something in Eric's tone made him stop. There was no emotion there. No embarrassment, no awkwardness, just nothing. Marcus decided to let it go, but he made a mental note to talk to his RA about possibly switching rooms. But things got worse before Marcus could make that switch. A few days later, Marcus came back to the dorm after his evening class around 8 p.m. He opened the door and immediately froze. The room was dark. All the lights were off, which was strange because Eric was usually there at this time. Marcus flipped on the light switch. Eric was sitting on Marcus's bed, in the dark, with Marcus's laptop open in front of him. "What the, Eric? What are you doing with my laptop?" Eric looked up slowly, his face expressionless. "I was looking at your photos. You have a nice family. Is that your sister in the pictures? She's very pretty." Marcus's stomach dropped. His laptop was password protected. How did Eric get into it? And why was he looking at photos of Marcus's family, specifically his younger sister? "Give me my laptop, right now." Marcus's voice was shaking with anger and fear. Eric closed the laptop and handed it over without a word. Then he stood up from Marcus's bed and walked to his own side of the room. Marcus grabbed his laptop, checking to see what Eric had accessed. His photos folder was open. His Facebook was logged in. His email was open. "How did you get into my laptop? I have a password." Eric sat on his bed looking at Marcus with those dead eyes. "I watched you type it in. You type it every day. It wasn't difficult to memorize." The casual way he said it, like it was the most normal thing in the world, made Marcus's skin crawl. Eric had been watching him, studying him, learning his patterns, his passwords, everything. "That's it. I'm done. You need to stay away from my stuff, away from me, and I'm requesting a room change first thing tomorrow morning."
Eric's expression didn't change. "That's unfortunate. I thought we were becoming friends." Marcus didn't respond. He grabbed his backpack, his laptop, and his phone and left the room. He went straight to his friend Tyler's dorm and asked if he could crash there for the night. He wasn't spending another night in that room with Eric. That night, from Tyler's dorm, Marcus changed all his passwords. He called his parents and told them what was happening. His father suggested he file a report with campus security immediately, which Marcus did. He also sent an urgent email to his RA, explaining everything and requesting an emergency room change. Around midnight, Marcus received a text message from an unknown number. He opened it and his blood ran cold. It was a photo of him. asleep in his bed. Taken from above, looking down at him. The angle suggested it was taken by someone standing right next to his bed. The timestamp on the photo was from 2 nights ago. The text below the photo read, "You look peaceful when you sleep. I'll miss watching you." Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his phone. Eric had been photographing him while he slept. Multiple times, probably. How many photos did Eric have? How long had this been going on? Marcus immediately forwarded the message to campus security and to the local police. He blocked the number, but more messages kept coming from different numbers. Photos of Marcus walking to class, photos of him at the library, photos of him eating lunch with friends. Eric had been stalking him for weeks, maybe even before they became roommates. The next morning, campus security went to Marcus's dorm room. Eric was gone. His belongings were still there, but Eric himself had vanished. They checked the security cameras. Eric had left the building around 1 a.m., carrying a backpack, and never returned. The university launched an investigation. They searched Eric's belongings and found a laptop filled with photos. Hundreds of photos. Of Marcus sleeping, of Marcus studying, of Marcus in the shower through a gap in the bathroom door. There were also photos of other students, other victims Eric had been watching. But the most disturbing discovery was a journal. Eric had been keeping detailed notes about Marcus, his schedule, his habits, his passwords, his friends' names, his family members' addresses. There were pages and pages of observations written in small, neat handwriting. The last entry, dated the night before Eric disappeared, simply read, "Subject is becoming aware. Time to move on, but I'll be watching from a distance." The police issued a warrant for Eric's arrest, but he was never found. It turned out that Eric wasn't even his real name. The identity he'd used to enroll in the university was fake. The address he'd listed didn't exist. His previous university had no record of him. Eric, whoever he really was, had simply vanished. Marcus transferred to a different university the following semester. He still checks over his shoulder constantly. He covers his laptop camera with tape. He never sleeps without checking every corner of his room first. And he never, ever accepts a random roommate assignment again. Marcus shared his story to warn others. Trust your instincts. If someone makes you uncomfortable, don't ignore it. Don't rationalize it away. And never underestimate how dangerous someone can be when they're obsessed. Because the person you're living with might not be who they say they are, and by the time you realize it, it might be too late.
This third and final story comes from a 27-year-old woman named Jessica, who was living in Chicago in 2018. Jessica had just gone through a difficult breakup and needed to find a new place to live quickly. She found a listing online for a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. The current tenant, a woman named Diane, was looking for someone to take over the second bedroom. The rent was reasonable, and Diane seemed friendly enough over the phone, so Jessica agreed to move in. Diane was in her early 30s, worked as a nurse at a local hospital, and seemed normal at first. She was welcoming when Jessica moved in, helped her carry boxes, and even made dinner for both of them that first night. Jessica felt relieved. After the stress of her breakup, it was nice to have a roommate who seemed kind and stable. The apartment itself was older but well maintained. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, and plenty of natural light. Jessica's room was at the end of the hallway, and Diane's room was near the living room. They shared a bathroom that was between their 2 bedrooms. The layout was simple and comfortable. For the first 2 weeks, everything was fine. Diane worked long shifts at the hospital, often overnight, so their schedules didn't overlap much.
I'm telling
When they
you,
did
it was
see
the
each other,
funniest thing I've seen
Diane
all
was pleasant,
week.
asking Jessica about her day,
Oh, stop. I can't
offering to
believe you
cook
actually did
meals
that.
together. Jessica started to feel like she'd made a good decision. But then, strange things started happening. It began with food. Jessica would buy groceries and put them in the fridge, clearly labeled with her name, but items would go missing. At first, it was small things, a yogurt here, some fruit there. Jessica didn't want to seem petty, so she didn't say anything.
Maybe Diane had eaten them by mistake. It wasn't worth causing tension over. But then, bigger items started disappearing. An entire package of chicken breasts, a block of cheese, half a carton of eggs. Jessica decided she needed to address it. One evening, when they were both home, she brought it up gently. "Hey, Diane, I've noticed some of my food has been going missing from the fridge. Have you been eating any of it? It's totally fine if you need to borrow stuff. I just want to know so I can plan my meals." Diane looked at her with wide, innocent eyes.
I am so incredibly sorry for what I did. I can't believe I acted that way. It won't happen again, I
"Oh
promise."
my God, Jessica, I'm so sorry. I've been so stressed with work. I must have grabbed your stuff by accident. I'll replace everything, I promise. Jessica felt relieved. It was just a misunderstanding. "No worries, it happens. Just try to be more careful, okay?" Diane nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely, I feel terrible." But the food kept disappearing, and Diane never replaced anything like she'd promised. Jessica started keeping her groceries in her bedroom, which felt ridiculous, but she didn't know what else to do. She didn't want to escalate things or create a hostile living situation. Then, Jessica started noticing other things. Her shampoo and conditioner bottles in the shared bathroom would be nearly empty when she'd just bought them. Her toothbrush would be in a different position than where she'd left it. Her towel would be damp when she hadn't used it. Small things that individually seemed insignificant, but together painted a disturbing picture. One night, Jessica came home late from work, around 10 p.m. The apartment was dark. Diane's car wasn't in the parking lot, so Jessica assumed she was working the night shift. Jessica went to her room, changed into comfortable clothes, and decided to take a shower before bed. As she was gathering her things, she realized she'd left her phone charger in the living room. She walked down the hallway in the dark, not bothering to turn on the lights. As she entered the living room, she stopped. There was someone sitting on the couch, in the dark, not moving. Jessica's heart leaped into her throat. She fumbled for the light switch and flipped it on. It was Diane, sitting perfectly still on the couch, staring straight ahead at the blank TV screen. Her eyes were open, but she didn't blink or react when the lights came on. "Diane? Oh my God, you scared me. I thought you were at work. Why are you sitting in the dark?" Diane slowly turned her head to look at Jessica. Her expression was blank, almost hollow. For a moment, she didn't say anything, just stared. Then, finally, she spoke. "I called in sick. I've been sitting here thinking." "Thinking about what?" Jessica asked, her unease growing. "About you, about us, about how nice it is to have you here." The way Diane said it made Jessica's skin crawl. There was something off about her tone, something that didn't match the friendly roommate Jessica thought she knew. "Oh, well, that's nice. I'm going to go take a shower and head to bed. You should probably get some rest too." Diane didn't respond. She just turned her head back to the TV and continued staring at the blank screen.
Jessica quickly grabbed her phone charger and retreated to her room. She locked her bedroom door that night, something she'd never done before. She couldn't shake the image of Diane sitting in the dark, staring at nothing, thinking about her. The next day, Jessica tried to act normal, but she couldn't stop thinking about the night before. She started paying more attention to Diane's behavior, and the more she noticed, the more concerned she became. Diane would stand outside Jessica's bedroom door sometimes. Jessica would hear footsteps stop right outside, and then nothing, just silence, like someone was standing there, listening. This would go on for minutes at a time before the footsteps would finally walk away. Jessica also noticed that Diane seemed to know things about her that she shouldn't know.
Details about phone conversations Jessica had in her room with the door closed. Plans Jessica had made that she hadn't mentioned to Diane. It was like Diane was listening to everything Jessica did. One evening, Jessica was getting dressed in her room. She'd just gotten out of the shower and was standing in front of her mirror in her underwear when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. There was a small hole in the wall near her ceiling, right above her closet. It was barely noticeable, maybe the size of a dime, but it was there, and it was new. Jessica had never seen it before. Her hands shaking, Jessica dragged her desk chair over and climbed up to examine the hole more closely. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it into the hole. She could see through to the other side, into the hallway. The hole had been drilled through the wall, providing a direct line of sight into Jessica's room from the hallway. Someone had been watching her. Jessica felt sick. She climbed down from the chair and immediately started looking around her room for other holes. She found 2 more. One near her bed, angled down to where she slept. Another near her desk, where she usually sat with her laptop. Diane had been watching her for who knows how long. Watching her sleep, watching her change, watching everything. Jessica didn't confront Diane. She didn't say a word. She simply called a friend, packed a bag with her most important belongings, and left. She stayed with her friend that night and called the police.
It was near the
next
Dowtown
morning.
area, around 11 p.m.
The police went to the apartment to investigate. What they found was worse than Jessica had imagined. Diane's room was covered with photos. Photos of Jessica sleeping. Photos of Jessica in the shower, taken through a gap in the bathroom door. Photos of Jessica getting dressed, taken through the holes in the wall. There were hundreds of them, pinned up on Diane's walls like some kind of shrine.
This is the gray sweater Jessica described.
They also
right
found
here.
Jessica's missing
Okay,
belongings.
I've got the photos.
Clothes that
Make
Jessica
sure to
thought
bag
she'd
that one
lost or
separately.
misplaced were in Diane's closet. Underwear, specifically. Items Jessica wore regularly. Diane had been stealing them and keeping them. But the most disturbing discovery was a diary. In it, Diane had written detailed entries about Jessica, her daily routines, her habits, her likes and dislikes. But the entries also revealed Diane's deteriorating mental state. She wrote about how she believed Jessica was her soulmate, that they were meant to be together. She wrote about wanting to become closer to Jessica, to merge with her. The final entry, dated the day before Jessica moved out, read, "She's pulling away. I can feel it. She's going to leave me like everyone else does. I can't let that happen. I need to make her understand. We belong together. I'll make her see." Diane was arrested and charged with stalking, invasion of privacy, and burglary. During the investigation, police discovered that this wasn't the first time Diane had done this. She'd had 3 previous roommates over the past 5 years, all of whom had moved out suddenly without explanation. None of them had reported what happened, too scared or too traumatized to come forward. Diane was eventually sentenced to 3 years in prison and was required to undergo psychiatric evaluation. Jessica got a restraining order and moved to a different part of the city. She had to go through therapy to deal with the trauma of knowing she'd been watched, photographed, and obsessed over for months without knowing it. Jessica shared her story because she wants others to know that sometimes the red flags are subtle. The missing food, the strange behavior, the feeling that something is off. She ignored those signs because she didn't want to seem paranoid or difficult. But those instincts were right. Trust yourself. If something feels wrong in your living situation, investigate. Don't ignore the small things. And if you ever feel unsafe, leave. Don't worry about breaking a lease or losing a deposit. Your safety is worth more than any amount of money or inconvenience.
Because the person you're living with might not just be a bad roommate. They might be dangerous. And by the time you realize it, they might have already invaded every aspect of your privacy and your life.